Welcome back to the Standing Room Only podcast, episode 101. We are, we're starting the triple digits. Technically started last week, but first episode into the triple digits. Went to the Bulls game this week, so we'll be talking about that experience, especially playing against the Hornets, who are an up-and-coming team. A lot of free agent signings. The deadline for the lockout is approaching quickly. It will happen shortly after this podcast is recorded. There are so many deals that happen because guys wanted to make sure they got paid beforehand. As always, you can follow us on social media at SROnlyPod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow our personal pages. Mine is at the Healy6.
And I am iGoose with 4 O's. As always, hit that follow button. Let's talk sports, people. We got a lot going on, Healy. Got a lot going on this week.
Yeah, we went to the Bulls game to start out. Went on Monday. Bulls versus Hornets.
What a game. What a game.
You gotta see LaMelo versus Lonzo.
The energy. As soon as that tip-off happened and Melo was driving down the court with Lonzo guarding him, the crowd went berserk. Berserk. Actually, the first few possessions back and forth, they were going pretty nuts. One of the best games I've seen in person. I've been to quite a few. This is probably the best game I watched of the Bulls this season, considering, injuries, COVID, other mishaps with the team. Levine was not even going to play because he woke up with an illness, not COVID related. Ended up playing, game time decision. Bulls won the game 133 to 119. Huge high scoring game. A lot of action. Both sides. It was
Bulls
I don't
almost
even know
blew
what
a
to say.
lead in the fourth.
They blew the lead. They actually were down. It got to the point where the Hornets got within 4 points. And then the Bulls threw some of the starters back in, and we saw them take off again, which is nice because it kind of shows that, because the Hornets, to me, and I picked this game on purpose, is because I know the Hornets are a very good team. I feel like they can compete in the East as at least a playoff team, top 8 or top 10 with a play-in. I think that in the next couple of years, we will be taking them seriously as a 4, 5, 6 seed. And it was just action-packed, and the Bulls went into the second half. I mean, into the fourth quarter, up by, what, 20 points?
Around there, it was like 17-ish. And then
And
the Hornets went on a 21-6 run in the first 5 minutes of the quarter.
it was nuts. It was nuts. I remember seeing fans who left for the fourth quarter to go grab food, maybe get some beer before the last call. Fans are coming back, and they're like, "What happened?" Like, well, this happened. And it wasn't. It was. I don't want to take away from the Bulls. I don't think it was a problem with the Bulls. The Hornets were just hitting everything, and the Bulls weren't scoring for that little stretch, which didn't help. But the Bulls ended up going on another huge run. They only got outscored in that fourth quarter by just a few points because they ended up winning by 14 in the game. They got outscored by 5 points in the fourth quarter when it was 17 at one point. So overall, it was a good game. Vooch had his game of the season finally. I know he's been knocking the rust off. He was in the COVID protocol. Comes back, has some okay games. This game, he shoots 12 of 19, 6 of 6 from downtown, 14 boards. He even had 5 assists, two key blocks in the game as well. Vucevic, DeRozan with 28, Levine with 25.
The funny thing about Vooch, too, it was either after his first or second bucket. I'm like, he's dropping 30 tonight.
You called it. You said, watch this be his finally his 30-point game. And
The
you never know
confidence was amazing to see with him, too.
And you know what? I think the matchup was perfect because the Hornets were playing hurt. And I don't want to take away, because I actually think PJ Washington is a pretty damn good basketball player who hasn't, like, he hasn't been consistent enough to where he's going to start. And Plumlee is the veteran center, but Plumlee being out forced the Hornets to play PJ Washington way more minutes, Kelly Oubre way more minutes, And McDaniels as well. Jalen McDaniels, we saw a lot. They only had 3 bench players that whole game. Seeing PJ Washington come in the first quarter, I think he hit like 4 or 4 from 3, and I was kind of shocked. Like, it's one thing to see Terry Rozier go off from downtown, or anybody else in the league to go off. But to see PJ Washington do that, I knew it was going to be a high scoring game considering the fact. Um, but Vooch, that matchup was perfect. I mean, he had his back to the basket. He worked the big man moves just right. He's I
He
mean,
was hitting that little hook that he
that
does
little hook shot,
finally.
yeah, in the paint. Um, and the ball movement helped. The ball movement was it's almost like watching the prime Spurs 15 years ago with Popovich and that ball movement with Tony Parker, Ginobili, Bowen, you like all those guys. And that was opening up the three-point shot for Vooch. And he shot 100%. He hit 6 of 6 from downtown. Name another center that can shoot that efficient. There's not many. Not many.
Yeah, and lately he's kind of been hesitant on shooting threes and just shooting in general. He gets
It's
the
the
ball and he was kind of like a pass first. He's like, oh my God. And then he's like, oh, I have the open shot. Oh, he throws it up and it misses. That game, he was like, got the ball, I'm wide open. I'm shooting it. Money.
Yeah, because the game before that, he shot 3 of 9. He played 30 minutes, scored 7 points. 16 and 14 points games are like his average right now, I would say, considering we have so many scorers and we're not going to have a 250 point total game every game. But it's nice to see him gain this confidence from this one game because he's a veteran. He's an all-star. He is somebody that once he knocks the rust off, as we mentioned, he will get it going. Not to mention the other guys balled out too. We did see Io go in there. He airballed a 3. But you know what? His energy, it's crazy seeing him and Caruso in person as well as on TV, obviously. The crowd loves these guys. The MVP chance for Caruso at the free throw line. Caruso, I know he missed a couple of free throws in the game, and I don't know if he's just a bad free throw shooter. But besides that, dropped 14 points with ease. 5 of 7 shooting from the field. Kobe did okay. Kobe airballed a 3, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
He had a big one
Kobe's
towards
going
the
to.
end.
He shoots a lot. I mean, he's got to.
Bruce was a 75 or 74% in his career free throw percentage. This season, he's shooting 85, though.
Okay, so he's up in his career. Okay, so that's what you expect from a guard. 80%, if not more. Obviously, some of the best out there are 90, 95, 96%. Steph Curry. But how about the fact that our big three, and I know I mentioned this after the game, Vucevic, DeRozan, Levine, 30, 28, 25. We haven't seen a big three do that probably since the Miami Heat with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. I can't think of a big three that's done that in the last 15 years, maybe 10 years, I'd say, because Boston's big three might have done that once upon a time.
Durant, Westbrook, Harden.
Okay, so that's around that same era with the Heat,
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah, around there, and
But these are all
maybe
teams that
maybe
competed.
Kyrie, Kevin Love, and LeBron, but it was mainly Kyrie and
Yeah. Kevin Love took the backseat. I'm sure they had a couple of games like that. But again, you're naming teams that competed for the title. And
yeah.
that's the key indicator for me is because, the Bulls are without Pat Williams and probably will be for a while. Um, I think that the Bulls are in a good position right now. I think that they're in a very good position.
And definitely have to check out a couple more games this season. The UC was bumping, and a
Oh
lot of
man.
people are excited to go, and ticket prices are showing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to attend a game right now, you need to give up some cash to attend, but it is worth it, especially if you find like a decent matchup. You'd always
Couple
find
hundred
some
bucks.
cheaper tickets if they face like a worser team, but if you find a decent matchup, you might as well take advantage and go.
You pay for quality, and these guys are delivering every single night right now. Even in games that they lose, there's close games. As a fan, it's yes, it is up compared to what it used to be, but you gotta go. You gotta go. If you're a Bulls fan and you're not too worried about being around people during this day and age with everything that's going on, I say find a game. Doesn't have to be versus the best team. There's so many good teams out there. This is actually one of the ticket prices that were on the cheaper side, being the Hornets, which I was kind of shocked considering the matchup, Melo versus Lonzo. How about that? That matchup was incredible. LeVar was in the building. We saw him taking pictures with fans. That was a good matchup. I think Lonzo played better, even though the numbers, when you look, if you don't look at the field goal percentage, the numbers were kind of there. LaMelo had 13 assists, but I feel like Lonzo just balled out and horrible calls against him. He was sticking LaMelo so well defensively, and there was a lot of bad calls.
At least they got better towards the end of the game, and it didn't affect the game as much. But yeah, there was a point where the Bulls were on the bad end of the calls, and the Hornets got some stupid free throw. But either way, Bulls pull out a W. They're going up against the Knicks and Nets this weekend. Another couple tough games. And I just like how every single game, not like, all right, here come the Bulls. All right, here's the loss that we're guaranteed to. No, every game it's like, all right, let's ride. Let's see what these guys can do.
Dunk fest. It was just a highlight-filled game, and it's like that most games. I mean, that mid-range toss-up from DeMar DeRozan, the and one that he got, which was well-deserved because he also was not getting any calls. It's almost like the refs were trying to help the Hornets any way possible. But that was nuts. The dunks were nuts. Javonte Green, at some point, I could see him flying out of the building. It's an exciting time, and I think it's time to take the Bulls serious. Actually, after their West Coast run, I'm taking them serious as a top 3 team.
Matchup of the season so far happened last night between the Suns and the Warriors.
Oh yeah.
And the Suns came out on top. Hurry. Michael Bridges has been a beast on defense so far this year. He's stepping up his game. He guarded Curry last night. Curry shot like 40% when guarded by him. He guarded James Harden in the game before, shut him down. And the Suns won by like 10 points, I think, last night.
Yeah, they ended up pulling it off by 8 points, which obviously going into that game, you had the the Warriors, who practically are the best team in basketball. Phoenix was the favorite since they were home. They did cover the spread, 2.5 points. The over-under was 221. That hit under at 210, which I don't want to say is a surprise because Phoenix actually has a solid defense too. So not a whole lot there, but I mean, Jordan Poole did well. Andrew Wiggins did okay offensively. I mean, you don't really expect Wiggins to have a great night, but this team, for what it was, if you told me Devin Booker's only putting up 10 points, Bridges is only putting up 2 points, and I didn't look at the bench, I would have probably had gone Warriors all day by at least 5 points. But Cam Johnson coming off the bench, which I've been talking about for a while, is somebody they got to keep around. 14 points off the bench. Shaman had 9 off the bench. Good acquisition. Some of the other guys stepped in. JaVale McGee had 8 points, but DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul were the big factors. DeAndre Ayton going 24 and 11. Chris Paul 15 and 11 assists with 6 boards, 5 steals in that game. That's a lot of turnovers from the Warriors, and that proved to be a deciding factor there. And obviously what they did on the defensive side, but I know that these teams will see each other again multiple times throughout the season. Friday is going to be the next game for the Warriors, and it's actually at home against Phoenix.
Ooh.
So they're back to back, but they're at home. And then can't forget about the Christmas Day games. You still have the Warriors versus Phoenix. To me, those games are not to say that not every game is serious because they all matter, but the Christmas Day games, there's always crazy games. The matchups are nuts. It's almost like a playoff vibe. And but I guess it's one game at a time. But this game, as of right now, with the Warriors being home, the Warriors, they don't even have the spread or the favorite yet. So tomorrow they'll probably have that up. I would not be surprised to see Warriors favorited by 2.5, the same way the Phoenix Suns were. I did not take the Suns serious in this win streak. They haven't really
Yeah,
played anybody
you didn't think they were
healthy.
gonna be like as good as they were last year either, and now they have 17 straight wins, and they beat the other best team in the league, the Warriors.
Yeah, I don't see the Utah as being as dangerous as they've been. I just can't take Utah serious. I don't know why. But Lakers, they're gonna struggle. LeBron's in COVID protocol or health protocols. He's gonna miss a few more games. Minnesota's looked really well, but again, they're not competing for the top four. It's gonna be between Phoenix and Golden State down the stretch for the 1-2 seed. As a matter of fact, this could be a Western Conference Finals, and I would pay to watch if I had to.
Mm-hmm. Klay Thompson and Damian Lee got recalled from uh, their G League team as well. That's a good
Very
sign.
nice. That's very good. Yeah, I know
They'll
they
be
said
returning very soon.
Yeah, they said last week, I believe, he was a couple of weeks out, whatever that means. That could be 2, it could be 3. I think it's pretty evident Klay Thompson's ready to go. And there was a video footage of him at the beginning of this week or a game over the weekend after their game, and he's sitting on the bench just after the game, just sitting there like eager, like hungry, and you want that. You want that from a guy. You don't want a guy who's gonna sit there, show up, collect his paycheck, do what he does. You want a guy who wants that championship. And once they're at full health, including Klay Thompson, Lee, Jordan Poole's obviously balling out, stepping into that role. He's gonna continue to get playing time. I don't know who I would bet on it between the Warriors fully healthy and the Suns. That's tough to me. I probably would go Warriors in a series, but I just I'm being sold on Phoenix. I'm not sold 100% yet, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I feel like they're gonna be tough to go against at some point just because they feel like a more solid team. I guarantee. With Curry and the Warriors, yeah, you're gonna get that offense, you're gonna get that efficiency. But Phoenix right now, you're seeing the defense, and you have a guy like Chris
Overall.
Paul and guys just being efficient. And DeAndre Ayton, he stepped up big in that game.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't know
mean,
if he was going to
hey,
have a similar season compared to last year. If he was all that, he's in a contract year at the moment. He's averaging 16 and 11 and a half.
that's all you need from him. That's all you need. And I mean, I forgot about to mention too, Memphis in the West, who is potentially compete, just lost John Morant. He has a sprained knee. Luckily, a sprained knee and nothing serious, so he'll probably miss some time. But thank the Lord, thank God that he doesn't have a torn anything because he could not get up by himself. I don't even think he could walk off.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it with great players. Knee injuries are unfortunately a common issue in the league. Nothing you could do to prevent it. They're usually non-contact injuries, which is what happened with John Morant, what's happened with Derrick Rose, other awesome stars that have went down. So good luck to the return of John Moran. I'm sure he will be back after a few games, maybe a few weeks. They're still in playoff contention. I don't see them losing too many games without him. So I think they'll be okay. But that just kind of goes to show like who's really it in the West. It's Phoenix and Golden State, and that's it. Everybody else catch up.
Besides that, I don't think there's too much news left with basketball. As you mentioned, LeBron is out due to COVID. He tweeted out today something's fishy.
Always
So
something with him.
yeah, we'll see what's happening with that. Bucks are losing to the Hornets right now, down 15. You like seeing that?
That's incredible. That just goes to show the Hornets are a good team and the Bucks are healthy right now. They do have their
Been
starting
struggling a
five,
little
so
bit.
yeah, they have been. They really
That's
have been.
somewhat. They have almost the same record as the Bulls.
Yeah, they get off to slow starts. I think they'll be okay. Charlotte's a weird team. They can shoot lights out if they have to. And the defense, I mean, the problem with this game is being up now 11 points. At any given point, their defense is we've seen throughout the season and even last year can be very lackluster. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bucks go on a run and win this game.
Move over to baseball. Baseball is hot right now. Free agents are signing. The deadline is at midnight to sign before everything gets locked out. And we have seen a lot of top free agents sign. We might even see a couple sign during this podcast over the next 30 minutes or so. The biggest one, Max Scherzer to the New York Mets. The Mets,
Huge.
Steven Matz last week signed with the Cardinals. Steve Cohen went to Twitter. Apparently, Steven Matz said like he would return or something like that. He gave him his word. Went away. That fired up Steve Cohen. What did he do? Goes out, signs Eduardo Escobar. That's the first piece to drop. Then he goes out and signs Mark Hanna. Good on base guy. Another couple years. Then they go out and get a 6th center fielder, outfielder, Starling Marte. 4-year deal. Might be an over like more years than they should have. I think he should have gotten like a 3-year max, but he got 4. It's whatever. And then they finally get Max Scherzer. You have
Huge
two of the
deal.
best pitchers in baseball with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer in that lineup. And now you're going to have Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Hanna, Robinson Cano, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. It's crazy. Francisco Lindor.
I can't imagine this. I know they lost Javi.
And they lost Strowman, too.
They did. Strowman to the Cubs.
They've definitely made up for it.
I think that at some point, I don't know when, but at some point you have to say it's time for the Mets. And I know we kind of said it going into last season. We thought that they would be it. And that East was the East ended up underperforming, I would say, compared to what we expected. Obviously the Braves, I think the Braves won their division and they won the World Series.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen with Freddie Freeman yet. He hasn't signed anywhere. The Braves should still be good, assuming they get Acuna back, depending on when they get him back. But they still had talent all around. But the Mets, if I was a gambling man, since I've never gambled in my life, I'd probably throw some money on the Mets. I'd throw some money on the Mets. You have 2 of the best starters in the game, and I don't care how old Max Scherzer is. He's going to give you quality starts. Sure, he might have some bad starts now that he's getting older. We've seen it here and there, I guess. But I will take Max Scherzer at his age over pretty much any pitcher in their prime right now. Did they overpay? I'm going to say no. A lot of guys are getting huge deals as it is. You have an owner who wants his fans to win. He wants his fans to win. He goes out and he makes huge signings, which was kind of expected. We know Cohen is one of those guys who likes to give the fans something to look forward to. Let's put it that way. And are they a 90-win team? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But I'm pretty confident with the splash they made, the morale in the with the ball club, and obviously we have to get through the CBA and whatnot. But the morale, if I'm playing for the Mets, I'm like, damn, he did it again. You got to be happy as a Mets player, not just as a Mets fan, but as a Mets player. Just got to get that chemistry going and get the bats going.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have the best owner in baseball, and he's one of the newest, and and he has the most money. out of
Yeah.
anyone in baseball. He does not care about the luxury tax. He said he doesn't. All he cares about is winning. Baseball has no salary cap. So he's going to go out and sign players. That's what he did. And the Braves only had 88 wins last year. And most of it came because they had guys like Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, and Jock Peterson. They all got hot. It's
at the
baseball's
right time.
all who gets hot at the right time. There's Mike Soroka went down too for them, and they still made the playoffs. Charlie Morton's hurt. Who knows how long he'll be out for? But it's the Mets were expected to win last year with that team that they constructed without Javi Baez. I think they're going to go into the season still with that. You would like them to get another starter, though. After Scherzer and DeGrom, it kind of falls off quite a bit.
There's still time. There's still time out there. They made trades and during the last season. They got Javi. Javi's gone, obviously, to the Tigers on a pretty big deal. But one of the other teams that made a huge splash, the Texas Rangers, making some moves.
They go out and get 2 of the top 5 shortstops in this class.
Yeah, Seager and Simeon. I know, and a lot of people are like, well, they're not really in a win now. They're in a rebuild. When you get 2 guys like that in your lineup, when you get 2 guys like that on the field and on the defensive side, I'm not saying that they're a contender automatically, but they have a chance to contend. Not only that, they got John Gray.
Yeah, it's not going to be this year, but baseball is all about the long game. They're like, oh, why? They aren't going to do anything this year. They're going to make a little bit of a mark in the season, but they have so many top 100 prospects. Their farm system's good, and this will only lead to more people signing with the team in the future. You aren't paying these guys to win next year. You're paying them to win in 3 or 4 years at most.
That's why you give them the longer contract. And it's like, well, why get these guys now? Simple. They're not going to be there next year. Somebody else is going to grab them. Get them now. Have them go through the growing pains. And I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. I think Texas, give them, like you said, a year or two. They should be able to compete in that division.
Especially with the free agency class next year not being good. Next year's class is not great at all. I can't even tell you like a name, but like this class is just so much more loaded compared to others. So you had Semien, who's a 7-year, $175 million deal, 25 per year, which I think's pretty good. 7 years will take him until he's 37, 38. Cool. Baseball, you pay guys to produce for a few years. And if they are bad at the end of their contract, most likely their team's good and they're young enough to where that money doesn't matter and they aren't paying guys, or the team's just bad in general, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Corey Seager, 10 years, $325 million, absolute monster contract. Carlos Correa is still available. He's going to get a lot more. A guy who signed for a little bit on the cheaper end, which I said he deserved 22, 23. I thought he would have gotten more with how these contracts were given out, though. Javi Baez went to the Detroit Tigers. It's official 6-year deal. The Tigers have spent a lot of money this offseason. They were like 5th. Now they're going to probably jump up to 3rd or something spending this offseason. $140 million for 6 years. I don't know. I just hope he keeps going on the route that he was going on. But Javi, you get some good moments. You're going to get some bad moments, though. He's a good team leader. Their team won 77 games last year. That's kind of wild to think about. And they still have a bunch of top prospects to come up. And they could spend on some guys in free agency to still help out that team. Tigers are coming up pretty quickly. And that's why the White Sox need to do something now before it's a total battle for that division.
The White Sox, they went out, they re-signed Lurie Garcia, who actually had a pretty good year. He's been consistent for them. Not a big name, but you get him, and then I think they signed Kendall Graveman, um, which I assume is gonna be out of the bullpen. Corey or who's it they got from the Cubs? I'm drawing a blank right now.
To where?
Who the reliever from the Cubs that
Oh,
they traded Nick
Kimbrel?
Madrigal. Yeah, Kimbrel. I can't remember. Isn't he a free agent now, or do they still have him for one more year?
I think they got him back.
They did. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Sox should be good. I don't know what else they really need. I know some guys were
They did not
hurt,
take back Tapera.
which is okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But yeah, so now you have Graveman, Kimbrel, Hendricks, 7, 8, 9.
That should be pretty good. That should be pretty good. But as you said, how much longer is this winning window gonna be for the Sox? I
The
mean, I
guaranteed
give
winning window.
the guaranteed, right? 2 years guaranteed. Three's a stretch. Obviously, moves are to be made. The Sox historically, the White Sox historically, kind of go through these runs, and then it's another 10 years before we see them make any moves. So we'll see. But I'm still confident. I still think the Sox are going to be one of the best in the AL for the next 2 seasons. They should be the best in the Central for the next 2 seasons, bearing any injuries, knock on wood. Sox played very well considering they were hurt most of the season with some of their best players. Eloy was hurt. Lewis Robert was hurt. Giolito for a little bit was getting beat up, but he ended up getting it together towards the end of the season. It's just they had a tough matchup in the playoffs. I mean, you played a very, very hot Houston Astros team. They went and I mean, they even battled it out with the Red Sox in very, very high scoring games. So I do think that the Sox next year should be able to get it together. They're going to be my early bid for the AL team to be in the World Series.
You go back to the AL West. AL West is going to be a great division next year.
Tough, tough.
Seattle, I thought they were going to make a lot of moves. They did make a big splash. They signed Robbie Ray, the Cy Young winner, to a 5-year, $115 million deal. I don't know how he only got 115. He has the most strikeouts per 9 in MLB history, which is
That's
great.
nuts.
Yu
Yeah.
Darvish held that. Nolan Ryan, another guy up there, but strikes out a lot of guys. Going to Seattle, that's like their only move so far. They've been linked to a bunch of top guys, and they just haven't signed there. Marcus Strowman was another guy linked there. They thought they may have gotten Semien, but maybe even Javi. They have not made any moves besides that. And then
Chris
you also have
Bryant.
the Angels, who signed Iglesias,
Yep.
who's really good. They re-signed him. They got Aaron Loop, best lefty in baseball last year. They had Noah Syndergaard,
Yep.
and then I think they made one more move. It might have been it though. But they're solid. Angels are gonna be a competitor in the AL West, and that leaves Houston. Is that every team?
Oakland.
The A's are probably going to be really bad last year.
Yeah, the A's, they won like 85 games or something like that last year, which was pretty good considering the fact, but I don't know how much longer they're going to keep at least a 5. Maybe they'll be 500 next year.
So
It's a tough
AL
division though.
West,
It's one of the toughest. Between that and the AL East, I don't know who's tougher.
I'm going to go with AL East still for now. It is always tough just because you have the main names of the Yankees, Sox.
Yep.
The Blue Jays, though, they did lose out on Robbie Ray. They did sign Kevin Gausman, though. Coming off a great year with San Fran. Paid him $5 million less than Robbie Ray. Should help out that team quite a bit. They made another signing here. I'm trying to trying to figure out who. Maybe they re-signed someone. Signed Yimi Garcia, David Phelps. I think they're in talks with. Oh, they re-signed Jose Barrios. They gave him a huge extension. I think they're in talks with Freddie Freeman though, so that could be cool.
That would be huge. That'd be big time. Like they need another bat over there. Well, technically, with Marcus Semien gone, they could use it. Different position, but still.
Yeah, who knows? They might get Trevor Story, someone like that. Byron Buxton. Wanted to talk about him. I just got reminded of him, of Jose Barrios. What a great extension for him. 7 years, $100 million.
It's huge. He produces. Not only does he have one of the best cards in MLB The Show, but yeah, I saw that pop up on my feed earlier today. The Twins, I guess the Twins are like one of those teams where you never know what you're going to get year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago, they competed. They were really good. Last year, they did okay, I guess. At best, they were okay. But Byron Buxton was nuts. Dude batted like over a 306 or something like that.
Yeah, the dude had a 4.5 WAR in 235 at-bats. He played 61 games last year and finished with half the WAR that Shohei Ohtani did for the year.
The whole year, yeah.
He is nuts, and he's getting paid $15 million a year. And I talked about this last year. A good stat to know that Fangraphs, they value WAR. So if you want to see if a free agent signing's okay or if a contract kind of works out for them, 1 WAR equals $8 million. This dude needs to put up 2 WAR per year, and he pretty much does that on the defensive end alone. He's put up 7.5 in his career, 1.2 last year, 1.2 the year before, 1.2 in 1.1 in 2019, 0.3 in 2018. He only played 20 games. 2.6 when he played a full season. Like, you're going to get that value alone defensively. And then his bat's there too. What a fantastic deal. Full no trade clause. But as we know, in a full no trade clause, if the team's bad and they get to a certain point, they could always just trade him away and he'll accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Marcus Strowman to the Cubs. Weird deal.
The Cubs.
3-year deal, $71 million. He made 25 the first 2 years, 21 the last year. He could opt out after the 2 years. People are like, how is he getting more money per year than Kevin Gausman, Robbie Ray? He accepted less years. And the Cubs, they are not paying anyone. Marcus Strowman also said on the Marquee Network tonight, he went to the Cubs because he thinks they can win. He wants to go to a team that can win. You might think, they won 70 games last year. They don't have anyone. That's a good indicator. There's still a lot of free agents on the board. But him signing, he signed within 24 hours as well. He got contacted last night. His agent was like, Chicago's interested. Flew overnight, LAX to Chicago, got his physical, signed the contract, done. That's a good sign. I really hope them getting Marcus Strowman means that they are going to sign a couple nice pieces, and this is not going to be a rebuild. They said it's not going to be a rebuild, but they could. There's Freeman, you have Castellanos, Chris Bryant, there's Trevor Story out there. They could get Carlos Correa. Carlos Rodon's still on the market. Kershaw's still on the market. They could get that Suzuki guy from Japan. Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Seager, okay. Now you're just getting in names that Anthony Rizzo could always come back, but there's still a lot of top guys. If they sign 1 or 2 of them, it could be in a decent position for what the Central is at the moment.
Yeah. And they have the money. They have the money. If you're gonna
Their
sign,
payroll's at
do it now.
115 right now.
What's their cap?
The luxury tax is 210.
Oh my gosh. They could definitely go out and grab a few guys if they wanted. Obviously, big names, you gotta limit that. But I mean, if you get a Freeman or a Chris Bryant, that'd be cool. I think Freeman definitely produces more offensively, but those are some big names. You get another man in the rotation as well. All of a sudden, you're talking 15 games over last year's. I mean, they played practically with a lot of their guys gone the whole second half of baseball. Some guys stepped up. Patrick Wisdom stepped up.
Frank
Then another,
Schwindel.
yeah, Schwindel. He was awesome.
You're
Who
getting
knows if
Madrigal
these
back.
Nick Madrigal, because they were able to trade for him. And I think that by signing Strowman, who in recent years had one of his best years, he's going to bring a lot to that rotation. They still have Kyle Hendricks, right? Am I going
Yeah, they
crazy? They
do.
still have Kyle Hendricks, who he's a good pitcher. I think for what they got him for, he's a good pitcher. He reminds me of like a Greg Maddux in a way. But we'll see what ends up happening because that Central Division is always up for grabs at this point. Milwaukee was really good last year, but they went on a crazy good run to end the season, like the whole second half of baseball. Cardinals randomly are good too. Like you never know what you're going to get from this division in particular cuz it's either hit or miss, and most of the time there's two teams that really are just not good, and then you have everybody else competing.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that
Yeah.
the Cubs won 70 games and they have the money right now. They have to spend the money. If they don't spend money as a Cubs fan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and they have the prospects coming up. The timing is there. They might be 1 year off, like, on being a decent team, but you make the signings this offseason. You have Brendan Davis coming up, Miguel Amaya, catcher coming up. They have some pitching prospects coming up.
Yeah.
They could be decent. They could definitely be decent. So I wasn't expecting Strowman to sign with the Cubs. I was kind of shying away from it too, because his ERA has been good. He's been good pitcher, but his advanced analytics have been like, he is not good. He shouldn't be having these numbers. They just need a good defense around him, and I think he'll be fine. He's a ground ball pitcher. Wrigley Field kind of is a pitcher's ballpark in a sense. If the wind's blowing out, you are out of luck there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, their fence dimensions are a little weird. And Nick Madrigal, solid defender. And if Horner could play solid defense at short, good. Then he should be fine.
I'm excited to see what happens. I hope we get some more signings before this midnight deadline for the CBA, or they end up coming to a conclusion on that, which it doesn't look likely. So stay tuned. Next week we'll have pretty much, maybe depending on what happens, some more signings. Chris Bryant, some other big names. Mariners are trying to make a splash. Cubs are trying to make a splash. There's some other teams looking to spend money, and it's bound to happen over the next couple weeks. I mean, some guys end up waiting till January. It's possible. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, let's finish off the podcast with some football now. Your Packers beat the Rams. It was a statement game for them. Aaron Rodgers didn't practice all week.
He got like a broken toe. He was showing his foot to the camera, gave a free preview to the OnlyFans.
On
He
Twitter, too.
he he played a really good game. He played a really good game. The defense to me was the biggest surprise, only because it's the Rams. They're star-studded. They gave up a big touchdown to Van Jefferson. They gave up a big play to Odell. They give up the big plays. That's the story of Green Bay for as long as I've been a fan. Even in the years where they've had good defenses, they tend to give up big plays. We saw it in the playoffs last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A couple big plays that cost them. But overall, they went up against one of the best defenses in the league. They went up against one of the best offenses in the league. and they came out on top. Aaron Rodgers had a 97.2 quarterback rating. Actually, Matthew Stafford had a pretty good game too. Should have had another interception that got dropped. Don't want to talk about it. But the fact that the running game 1 and 2 were both doing it for Green Bay. AJ Dillon went for about 70 yards on the ground. Aaron Jones played, even though he was hurt, limited snaps, looked pretty well. And the defense got to Matthew Stafford, hit 2 sacks, interception, forced key turnovers, forced a fumble, and they ended up winning. They won by 8 points. The Rams scored at the end. They scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Packers basically already had the win in the bag. And now Green Bay goes into the bye week. And then after the bye week, they have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is another playoff matchup. So the Rams is a playoff preview. We've seen Arizona was a playoff preview. They've beaten 2 of the best teams in football. Arizona, who was undefeated, they beat Cincinnati, who I think is pretty good in the AFC. They beat the Rams. And I'm sorry, they have the Bears. I thought they had the Bucks for some reason. It doesn't look like they do. They have the Bears coming out of the bye week, which I think they should be able to handle the Bears, but the schedule does get tough from that point. You have Baltimore, you have Cleveland, Minnesota they lost to, and then Detroit to wrap up the season. So hopefully they can win most of those games and get into that last week. And if they need to win that game, I'm sure they'll pull it off. They want that home field advantage, especially with Lambeau and how cold it gets. But that was a huge win. That was a very huge win for Green Bay, considering that was probably the next best team they had to go through besides if they ever had to play Tampa. For some reason, I thought they had to play Tampa, but they don't. Because that to me right there is going to be the team to go through in the playoffs. Tom Brady, January, February, is pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Funny thing about Tom Brady and like the Patriots, Mac Jones filed for MJ10 today, a trademark.
Like
Doesn't
TB12.
doesn't sound as cool as TB12.
Nah, MJ10. I guess it rolls off the tongue a little bit. Dude's awesome. They won another game.
Yeah, they lead the division by half game right now.
Yep.
Their bye week next week.
They didn't just win. They dominated Tennessee. I know Tennessee's a little hurt, but even then, Tennessee's been playing pretty well. Dominated Tennessee. Best team in the AFC, hands down right now. They do have, actually, I would say, we said Tennessee, New England is the matchup for the best AFC team. This upcoming Monday night football game, Buffalo, New England. New England's traveling to Buffalo. Obviously not a far travel for them, but this is going to be the matchup for the best AFC team. They have Buffalo twice still. They have Buffalo bye week. They go to Indy, which Indy's been playing pretty well. Jonathan Taylor's probably going to, if Indy can somehow make their way to the playoffs, I can see Jonathan Taylor being up there as MVP go-getter. After the Colts, they have Buffalo again. Then the schedule gets a little bit easier with Jacksonville and Miami. So definitely a tough 3 games coming up for New England. And this is going to determine, are they who we think they are? And Buffalo's, are they who we think they are as well? Because they seem to be struggling a little bit. They started off hot, lost a couple games here and there recently. They look human, if you will. Josh Allen looks human. The defense looks human. We'll see Monday night.
Any other big news in football that we're forgetting?
Adrian Peterson signed to the practice squad for Seattle.
I didn't even realize he got released from the Titans until I saw that.
If unless you played fantasy and you had him on your team, you would not have known that. I only saw it because I got the notification that he got dropped by all these fantasy owners, and I looked, and the note was, "Hey, he got dropped by Tennessee. They waived him."
It
So what
kind of
does Pete
makes
Carroll do?
sense.
Pete Carroll goes and grabs him for the practice squad. They are without Chris Carson. He's on the IR, which makes sense. Go grab a veteran running back, because if they do sneak their way into the playoffs, who knows? If you can get 10, 12 touches out of him, maybe he'll do some things.
Yeah, he He didn't average too many yards per game. He averaged 4.4 in his last game, which was cool, but the previous two he didn't get anywhere.
No, he the father time or the grandfather time, whatever the saying is, it definitely caught up to him, and you know, yeah, you just never know. Maybe Seattle has something up their sleeve. I highly doubt he'll be on the roster after this season or even for the playoffs. But with this week coming up, we do have some key matchups. Thursday night football is packed. Cowboys, Saints, Kamara should be back. Cowboys are the favorite at 4.5 points. I assume the Cowboys should win, but you just never know with that sneaky Saints defense. You have the Bears going up against the Cardinals. I think this is the game where the Bears just unfortunately we can say that they're out of playoff contention unless they pull it off. They can pull it off. The Cardinals are favored at 7.5 points with an over under of 45.5. There's not really any good matchups. Denver and Kansas City. That's a divisional game. Denver 6-5, Kansas City 7-4. That is the Sunday night football game. They're giving Kansas City 10-point spread. Besides that, there's not really much. Baltimore and Pittsburgh is another divisional game, but Baltimore, I assume, should come out on top. They are giving them the 4.5-point spread.
We are getting to that point in the year where teams are either really good or they're really bad.
That's
And
they're a
it's
playoff
not
team
like
or they're not.
it's not like make or break games. Maybe the Seahawks were like 3-5 and they were going up against a 5-3 team.
Yeah, Wilson being hurt kind of hurt that for them, but I mean, they're still not a bad team. I mean, they're not a playoff team in my eyes, but with the wild card in the NFC at least, you have the Rams 7-4, San Fran 6-5, Washington at 5-6. There's other 5-6 teams: Minnesota, Atlanta, New Orleans, Phillies 5-7. They haven't had their bye yet. The Bears, if they can somehow go on a little winning streak, Chicago fans, they might be able to sneak in to that third wild card spot. So you can't count them out yet, but they have to get through Arizona, or else I would probably say they're done.
I think that's going to do it, though, for this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. You guys do enjoy. Make sure follow us on social media at SROnlyPod. You can find my personal page at the Healy6.
And I'm iGoose with 4 O's. Hit that follow button, and we will see you guys next week.